Hello everybody and welcome back to the snooker action, and this time it is Xi'An Grand Prix once again, but it is the quarter-final stage. RonnieOSullivan up against Gary Wilson. We already know that it's going to be Daniel Wells against Mark Williams in the first semi-final, and who's going to make it into the second one. We've got two great matches right now being played alongside each other, which is a bit of a shame there. Ding Junhui is having an almighty clash with Sean Murphy on table 1 there. And on table number 2, it is going to be RonnieOSullivan against Gary Wilson, the 7-time world champion, against the player that was looking to make it into the semi-final of the World Championship a couple of seasons ago. And didn't quite make that happen. And very much looking forward to seeing the way he's going to go in between the two of them. Gary Wilson had a comfortable display yesterday against Xi'An, and RonnieOSullivan himself managed to beat Jack Jones with respective scorelines of 5 frames to 2 and 5 frames to 0 for your Gary Wilson there. So, hello Kevin, hello Neil Friedman there, lovely message as well. Hope you're back in there. And certainly looking forward to see Ronnie in display. In hindsight, we could have a brilliant battle of, well, whichever one of the players makes it into the semi-final. I think the bigger name is of course going to be RonnieOSullivan, but if Gary Wilson is going to clash with Sean Murphy or Dean Joey, it's still going to be a semi-final that is going to be worth watching. In terms of the odds for this match, Ronnie comes into this clash as a significant favourite there, in being the world number 4. Wilson has dropped out very recently outside of the top 16 after making it into the final of another China event here in Wuhan Open, where ultimately he lost out to Xi'An by a scoreline of 10 frames to 9. And the referee's just waiting for the players to come on the table number 1, and this time it is going to be RonnieOSullivan to break off. And I think Gary Wilson was very eager for that to happen, and yeah, RonnieOSullivan actually tells him, that's fine, you can do it. And both players have a little smile on their face before the start, but it's certainly going to be all about business here. Yeah, I'm back. Lovely to see that, Neil. As I say, lovely message in the chat previously. And, well, I mean, you being Team Ronnie, I think it's 92% in the poll that are Team Ronnie, thinking that he's going to be the favourite. But the break-off shot there by Wilson is actually quite nice. The only red that O'Sullivan can see that he's not part of the bunch. He's probably covered up by the blue and the green. So a straightforward shot, sending the cue ball into the right-hand side of the table. And just rolling up to the bunch here. I think he didn't judge the pace perfectly, so I think he's going to run out of steam. And just about, so very marginal. Got a couple of centimeters. I read the chat of Blockbuster Semi, and I thought centimeters. Anyway, it's going to be 4 points given away to Gary Wilson, and it's certainly going to be attempt number 2 now by Ronnie. So 2 players, even though they're not necessarily young, any of them, only met in the up against each other 6 times. RonnieOSullivan managed to win 5 of those matches, and only 1 of those was won by Gary Wilson, and that one is at the Scottish Open. And the reason why I specified that exact winning is because it was best of 7. So Gary Wilson has never beaten RonnieOSullivan when he was best of 9 or first of 5 frames, or more than that. He'll be looking to try and make it the first time that's ever happened to him. And from the second time of asking, so I'm not sure what Wilson seems to be talking about here. I thought he was going to have a re-rack, but I think he's just asking Ronnie to see if it's touch and ball there. So the referee says it's up to you two. And in the end, I think they agree that it's touch and ball. And Ronnie says, yeah, whatever. Trust you on that one. And I was just about to say, I thought it was a bit early for the re-rack. Steve Williams had a close one. He really did. He really did. It was. I was watching that decider. And Liu Hao Tang only has got himself to blame, you know, after Williams missed that pink into the right corner after being hampered up by one of the reds, as Wilson now leaves away a chance now for Ronnie into the left corner. So can play this one with a lot of backspin and guide the cue ball into the bulk area, which is exactly what he's going to do. It's a brilliant pot there by Ronnie, and he's off to a great start now. Live it is, but it's not going to be on here, I'm afraid. And I was recently just having a look at what happens with streams that actually try to do a live stream on YouTube of the match, and nothing nice is my answer. They get a copyright ban of at least 7 months without streaming allowed on the channel. But O'Sullivan's got a lovely little position up ahead of him. He's got 3 reds available, and also the way the reds in the pack are actually positioned, I think if he goes from the black there, he could have he could use one of the reds that are currently in the open play as a backup option, and just give himself a couple of free shots to try and develop the bunch even more. Hello everyone, hello. It's 3 points now for Ronnie, as he's got himself into a break. Still, as I say, 3 more reds available, but right now the red that is going to go into the right corner He's going to leave himself with a little bit of an angle on this black right now. And send the cue ball into the reds. The red that I was talking about as a backup option, he already managed to get rid of it on the previous shot, so has to judge this one perfectly if he does go into the bunch, but decides against that for now, so probably the right decision there. And very important for O'Sullivan to do exactly the same thing as he managed to do against every single one of his opponents, is to win the opening frame. In fact, he's managed to win the opening 2 frames in the matches against Jack Jones, Stephen Maguire, Yao Cheng and Julian Boyko all together there. So he's got a nice little pink into the right corner. So he's about to get rid of 4 reds right now. And then you'll have 11 of those to try and target. In fact, there's going to be 10 of them. There's going to be one more on the black ball cushion, which he could still try and go for. In fact, with him landing pretty straight on the black and just leading the cue ball in towards the black cushion. I think it's set up perfectly now for him, so dead base pretty much, no acceleration at all on the cue. And I think he set up himself a little bit straight on the shot into the left corner. Don't think he's going to be too happy with himself. Quarterfinals still best of 9. Well, I think it's always been like that, to be honest with you. I think if you have a format of 5 or 6 frames, the only change you're going to have is semi-finals. And I suppose that the good thing is we started with the qualifying round with best of 9 and we're still up to that format. But this is a mistake there from Ronnie. Is he going to get away with this though? And I don't think he will, because he misses the black into the right corner, something that you very rarely see happen on the snooker table when RonnieOSullivan's featuring there. But the red that he can try and pot into the green pocket. It's Wilson. It's available, but it's very much hampered by the blue and the black here, so it's a rest shot that ain't going to be easy. And yeah, so we're going to go into best of 11, first to 6 in the semi-finals. And then it's going to be best of 19, first to 10 in the final. That's going to change into international championship after we get the whole nations Northern Ireland out of the way, with us having a lot more frames being played out there. But Wilson manages to take the red into the green corner. So right now, if he just gets the green in, as long as he's got a couple of reds to try and aim there on the lower part of the table, which, to be fair, I'm not actually sure that he is. But if you can try and produce that, you can always try and generate a lot of power in the cue ball, send it into the bunch with hope that it's going to end up on one of the reds. And if he does it, I mean, there's no reds that are safe at the moment, so none of them are on the cushion. So Ronnie did get a bad hold of the position, but the trajectory line is perfect there from Wilson, and he will be certainly rewarded for it as he gets himself into the red. And, well, he's got pretty much spoiled for choice right now. He's got a red into the right middle, which is the hardest of them all, but he's got really 2 simple reds into the right and left corner, and the fact that he has to play it with the rest is not going to compromise him one bit. And the only thing that is actually going to probably compromise him a touch is because he has to generate some power on the cue ball to get it up the table and land himself on the black, which O'Sullivan has missed previously. So that's why he's gone over the limit and sort of onto the top part of the table there. So he has to be careful with his shot right now, Wilson, because even though he has got a red into the left corner, he still doesn't want to have too much distance in between the cue ball and this red. And he uses the blue actually very, very nicely. Cannons the cue ball into it. And it's a mid-range shot with the red being very close to the corner. A little bit of a stun to play the black that has just gone back onto his spot. And all of a sudden it's going to be the opening frame, very much within the grasp of Guy Wilson. It's the 3rd time that we've seen the quarter-final this season featuring names O'Sullivan and Wilson. 2 of those times was his clash against Karen Wilson at the Shanghai Masters and the Saudi Arabian Masters. But this time, it's Guy Wilson there that so far has produced decent enough break here to make it 20 points on the board. And could still very much put this frame to bed now with the visit to the table. In fact, it'll probably be a massive waste if it doesn't. But has to take this one a shot at a time there. And very much being a man of form there, Wilson. He struggled against Mateusz Baranowski there. Had to win that one in a decider. But in complete contrast to that, he managed to dispatch Shegon yesterday with a brilliant performance and a whitewash of 5 frames to 0. And he's looking to get off to a great start now, of course being one of the best players still left out in the tournament when it comes to break building. Probably he's going to go on the top 3 in terms of just being behind Ronnie and Murphy with the way those two have played. Gets himself 40 points now. So play the red into the right corner and have himself lined up on the black into the same pocket. So the remaining 4 reds, as it probably has been from the stage of 8 of those reds on the table, are still very much open. So unless there's going to be a massive blunder, a mistake, it's going to be an easy execution, you would think, from Guy Wilson. He's already 21 points clear, and he only will need a couple of more of those reds, and he'll be nicely away there into the second frame there with a nice little cushion of a single frame to his name. Once again, pots the black there. So it's the first 50 plus break that we've seen. Gets him onto 56 points. And for the first time in O'Sullivan's campaign, it is someone else that has done it in the opening frame against him. And Stephen Maguire, Jaap and Chen, Julian Boyko and Jack Jones all had to be spending the majority of the first frame time sat in their chair. And he managed to make a century in at least 2 of those matches in the opening frame. But it's not looking good there for him. One mistake and it looks like it's going to be the one that matters. Missing that black into the right corner. Looked like it was going to be a major blunder at that time. And Guy Wilson just got himself over the frame ball line. So he's now nicely away into the 71 point zone. So on the break of 67 points and counting, still just about has enough points for a century break. If he takes this red with the pink here. So it was on 72 points. The pink will take him to 78 points, but of course of those, he's going to be 74 on the break. And doesn't want to catch the blue though, and he does catch the blue. So pick your interest. He's not happy about that one. I mean, I can't say I am, but I think it's going to be a challenge there for Ronnie, and certainly wasn't going to be a walk in the park. He does like to go for a run, but I don't think that's the script if you're Guy Wilson. And he can't pot the yellow there, but he's still off to a great start, making it a break of 74 points and taking the opening frame by quite a comfortable visit to the table there. Didn't look like he was in trouble at any point, and ultimately it is RonnieOSullivan that finds himself on the back foot, as it is Guy Wilson 1, RonnieOSullivan 0, and with a nice little tradition. And well, yeah, I mean, Barry Hawkins won't be happy about it. He lost out to Mark Williams yesterday, and as you can see in the chat, he's certainly not feeling too happy about Ronnie losing this one as well. Settler for Wilson. I mean, it is a nice settler for Wilson. It's very important for him as well, as he does seem to have a little conversation there to Jan de Haas. As don't worry, he's not the current referee. He's just the head of the referee association. So he's probably talking about the lights there, having a hand gesture that something seems to be blinding him a little bit. And Sean Murphy, what a surprise. He's got off to a great start against Ding Junhui. And the two Englishmen find themselves up front there. Ding Junhui still hasn't scored a point there. So Murphy's 20% there of doing the same to Ding Junhui as he managed to do to Karen Wilson yesterday. Wilson not having single pot there in his clash of Murphy in the last 16. Ding Junhui is off to a bad start against Murphy as well. And he's now losing by 1 frame to 0. But all to play for. I'm a big Ronnie fan, but I'm a bigger Wilson hater. Well, as I say, I can't resonate with that, but you do you, I suppose. I don't know why you would hate Wilson. It does seem to be like a little bit of a character, but I still think he is, one of those people that just real, innit? So come on, Gary. Well, Michael, it's looking good for him so far. He's off to taking the opening frame here as Ronnie goes for a bathroom break. That seems to be taking a while there for him. And after having that chat with Jan de Haas and the referee, just I think giving a little bit of room there for people to just try and brush the table a little bit. So maybe the players were complaining that it wasn't as good as it could have been. And yeah, I thought actually it was a little bit of a weird decision there by the Chinese broadcasting team to put Ding Junhui match against Sean Murphy up against O'Sullivan and Wilson. I thought they could easily have spread that out and make one of those things in the morning session and one of those in the afternoon session, but I just think it's a little bit weird for you to expect people to watch two quarterfinals that are clearly the better of the four of them alongside each other. And clearly all eyes are going to be on Ronnie here. So as I say, I think he could have done better, but ultimately it is what it is now. Is there a full house today, please? The thing is, you can't really see from here. You can only see like sort of one row there, but from the noise that was hearing when Mark Williams managed to win, it certainly was a lot of noise. So I would expect it to be pretty much bucked up there. And, you know, the way snooker is he's popular in China, and it being this quarter-final stage, and it featuring Ronnie, only for the third time in this season. It is off to a break-off shot now. Needs to make this one very good there for him. And the cue ball does seem to be going very close to the green pocket. In fact, it's going to drop there. So just as I say, he needs a good break-off shot. He starts the second frame exactly in the way he started the second frame, in the meaning that he given 4 points away there to Wilson by underrunning to the pack of reds, but this time he gives him a ball in hand now to try and potentially have a go at this red into the right corner. The problem that Wilson has got ahead of himself though is if he does go for it, he has to put a lot of screw back on this cue ball, which is something that he's willing to do. You can see with the movement of the cue, this is going to be a powerful shot, and he makes this one as well. And it's a brilliant start there to Wilson this time, if he just gets himself onto the brown. But yeah, he's landed anywhere but there, basically. I mean, that is as unlucky as it gets. 2 millimeters less of distance, and he would have been perfect on the brown. But because it's so close to it, he can't get anywhere near potting it. And it's very unlucky there for him. In fact, it's probably not a great start of fortune there for him, but you know, certainly deserved more than that after a wonderful shot into the right corner. But Ronnie has to pull himself together. You know, Wilson is clearly up for it, and you know, when I mentioned him underrunning for the Reds, he's going to do it again here. So 4 more points given away there to Wilson. And yeah, so this is the concerning thing, and this is partially what Ronnie was talking about. You can't take the game for granted, and just because you were playing really well against Stephen Maguire and pretty well against Jack Jones doesn't mean that you're going to be off to a great start against Wilson here, who seems to be finding his groove himself. And O'Sullivan has to find himself on the receiving end of things. You can't watch this. Well, I'd probably say it's a bit too early for that. And the thing about Wilson and O'Sullivan, both of them can find a brilliant form, but both of them can lose that form in no time. And of course, both of them can try and punish each other. I think it's going to be very attacking, a very quick match. I think it's, you know, if you take into account that it's the quarterfinals, Ronnie there goes into the reds with way too much power. He's very lucky not to give away a red into the right corner. I think it's going to be called a touch and ball there by the referee. And if it ain't, then Wilson will just try and play the cue ball into the reds there. Use the brown as a little bumper. But this time, it's not really so much of momentum that Wilson's got to himself. So Ronnie can try and find himself back in this frame. Send the reds pretty much well, away from each other here, if he wants to do that, but he goes for a remote red that was already in the open play, so just uses that as a nice little safety shot for himself, lands the cue ball perfectly on the ball cushion, and it's probably the first shot that he can actually really be happy with in terms of his safety play. Come on, Ronnie. Well, that's what the crowd will be thinking right now. I haven't got a Chinese player to cheer on for here, and naturally, with the way his popularity is in China, he's going to be very much the man to cheer for, and they may have something to cheer for right now, because Wilson, after losing that momentum, and a brilliant shot there from Ronnie, Ronnie's got now, makes a mistake, and Ronnie now has got a red to try and take into the right corner, but he refuses that shot, obviously compromised by the fact that the black doesn't seem to be available, and wants the cue ball to run here, in behind the yellow, and once again it's a perfect shot there by Ronnie, because I'm pretty sure he's covered up all of the potential routes for escape there for Wilson. In fact, you can see it with the graphic. And it's a brilliant shot there for him. Right now, he just has to see this one through. And the problem is, the way the reds have spread out, some of them are still bunched up in below the pink, but there's way too many remote of those reds that you could try and leave there for Ronnie. And yeah, Wilson doesn't seem to be too happy about that. Black is still covered up and right in mix of reds there. Pink wouldn't go any further than the left middle pocket, and the blue and the bold colours are all available there. Not looking perfect, but not looking too bad there if Ronnie is to get a chance. But until then, Wilson can go for a 2-cushion escape, trying to catch one of those reds. Not from the first time of asking, and is he going to give away a free ball now? He was on the risk of doing that, and in the end, don't think it's going to happen. So 4 points will be given away to Ronnie. And Wilson taking his time there to give Ronnie an opportunity to have a look at the red that he can try and go for. But I think he'll ask the referee to put the cue ball back where he was, and Wilson is happy from the get-go. So very close and very good work from the referee. So attempt number 2, and he catches this one well. He catches this one really well. In fact, he caught it perfectly. Just the edge of the red there. And leading the cue ball onto the top part of the table once again, way beyond the baulk line. And the red to try and go into the left corner. So Ronnie finds himself 5 points behind now with only a single red potted. And needs a cannon off the yellow now to get the cue ball a little bit further down the table. And it was a risky shot there from Ronnie because he didn't catch the red perfectly. It's gone over the right corner pocket there to an extent. So if it had been a different angle on the cue ball, I think Wilson would have tried to go for it, but it's just a safety to play of the same red and give the turn back to Ronnie here. The black was there was an attempt to free up the black there from Wilson, but instead it's gone on its home cushion, so out of the game for a considerable amount of time, you would think, unless of course either one of the two does manage to bring it up. But Ronnie playing a risky shot, exactly what I mentioned, trying to get the black into the play, but wants the cue ball to go over the yellow. And I think it's overrun there because he's left the red now, potentially available for Wilson. Into the left corner. This one is not going to be too easy, especially in terms of controlling the cue ball. But it's the one that Wilson has to take on. And he pots this one. And he does manage to miss the red there as well. So it's a wonderful shot once again now from Wilson. He gets himself onto the brown, into the yellow pocket, and it all seems to be a bit of domination so far in the opening frame in a bit from Gary Wilson. Seem to be in the control of the position for the majority of that safety battle, and gets the first chance, manages to convert it. As I said, it wasn't easy for him to try and control the cue ball. And, well, just as I give him a little bit of praise, I think he's not going to be happy with himself, misjudging the cue ball trajectory, trying to send it into the reds, but in the end, just 5 points earned and a safety now to follow. So could have done better, but in the end, he can't always pot that one. But obviously taking a lot of approach there and a lot of aggression on the shot, trying to hammer the brown into the yellow pocket. Still misjudged the angle, but he's found a really nice safety shot there. So still seems to be back to square one now for Wilson, being only 10 points clear. Hasn't got too much of momentum now, but Ronnie needs to make sure he wins this safety battle, because you have to feel like if Wilson gets a third chance, he ain't going to get 5 points from that one. It'll be a lot more than that. Of course, he'll be massively helped by the fact that there's going to be less and less reds available, so less of the chances for any of them to get in the way. Guy's winning at the moment. It certainly is winning at the moment, but as I say, it could change. It could change. As he sends the cue ball into the brown now, I think it's going to be a chance now for Ronnie, if he wants to take this red into the right corner. Once again, no guarantee on the cue ball point of view. So he's got 2 reds that he could try and go for, but he has to feel like he probably has to refuse the shot, because there's no guarantee that he'll pot this one. And even if he does, the only real colour that he can try and go for is going to be the black. And I mean, he's missed that one by an absolute mile, and he's going to give away a free ball as well. I mean, it's not looking nice, but just about gets away with it. And does he though? Because Wilson can have a go at this red himself now. So, I mean, so many foul points already given away there by Ronnie. It's 3 that I've counted, and it's only been the opening frame in a bit here. Not finding the safety play. Wilson managing to dominate that, and has to make this one frame as well then. because he's been playing a lot better so far, and the worst thing he can do is go into the third frame with a scoreline of being 1 frame each and having outplayed Ronnie on the majority of the battlefields here. And once again, Ronnie going for that very thin cut on the red. This time he catches it just about perfect, and the cue ball is going to land perfectly onto the baulk line. So it does go from missing a red to playing an absolute beauty of a safety there, Ronnie. And Wilson has to find himself with a little bit tougher in terms of the shot selection now. Having looked to see the reds, potentially looking at the plant there, just to see that neither of them are going to go too close to the right corner. Hi everyone, hello Krishna Kumar. And yeah, this is going to be a very important couple of shots now from Wilson, and that's not the way to do it, because it certainly is going to be a chance now to Ronnie. He's got a red to try and take into the right corner, but it's not the one that you can refuse. It's solely a distance in between the two of them. It's barely a middle range shot there, but the expression on Ronnie's face doesn't seem to tell us that he's going to enjoy this shot right now. And very important now. We're going to have a massive outcome of the frame now, but he refuses the shot. Just tells you how bad the position of the colour is in the mind of RonnieOSullivan, because it's a red that you never refuse as a professional. But he just takes the chance to send the cue ball up the table and get Gary Wilson into a little bit more trouble. So you feel like if he has to be a red, if he's going to be a red that either one of the players takes, it has to be an obvious mistake by the other one. And so far it's Gary Wilson that has to take all the time on the consideration here to try and get himself, well, try to get the cue ball onto the safe route home there. In behind the yellow potentially. Because if you land a snooker here, you could get so many of the snooker points with I think both of the players just being so frightening and frightened to give away a pot there into either one of the left corner or the right corner pocket there. So Wilson in the end will try and go for an aggressive shot there, and he was always going to leave the cue ball a bit higher than he wanted. So this is now the chance that RonnieOSullivan has to take on. Whether he'll pot this one or not is another question, but he's got a nice little angle to just get the cue ball into the main pack of reds and potentially get himself on the pink here. May actually be able to travel back for the blue here, but has to make this red in. Can't afford to make an error, and he does make an error. And when I said it's going to be a massive outcome, hold on though. Is he going to fluke the red? I mean, this could be the fluke of the tournament just because of the outcome here. Because if he misses that red, and he did miss that red, he gives away a perfect chance now to Gary Wilson. But right now, he's got himself on the black. And this could be the turning point. Not just this frame, but the entire quarterfinal. Because this has turned the match on its head now. Ronnie was dominated by Gary Wilson in the entirety of the safety play. Misses the red into the right corner and then flukes it off the left-hand cushion into the same corner there. And, well, right now he's got himself into a perfect position in and around the black. So 20 points accumulated in no time, 16 of those on the current break. And it's going to be enough reds for him to try and make it a significant break advantage there. And certainly is a gift from snooker gods to RonnieOSullivan. He didn't need too much of the luck against Jack Jones and Stephen Maguire. But he certainly had one here, and once again, not perfect in terms of the cue ball position. The camera seems to be stuck on the black here, so I wanted to move a little bit more. And from what I can see here, he's got a difficult shot into the right corner, or he's got not so difficult shot into the right middle, but he goes for the shot into the yellow corner, or the shot into the middle, but he misses that one. So, in fairness, as much as I hate Ronnie miss the shots, but it probably is fair thing, because he didn't really deserve to win it. Where can I see live, mate? Yeah, TNT Sports or the WST live play is the way to do it for you. And personally, I really hate to see any player win a frame for the fluke. I know it's part of the game, but it's not really fair on the other player. And Eurosport in mainline Europe as well, if you want to. But Wilson has got a little bit of an issue ahead of himself in terms of Ronnie could have made this break the one that actually won him the frame without needing the 4 reds at the bottom of the table. I don't think Wilson can try and afford to do that, with him being only a couple of points ahead now after this blue. So he'll be 2 points clear and get himself into 30 points. He's got 4 reds in alongside the pink there. And then he's got 4 more reds onto the lower part of the table there. So a couple of shots that you'll probably need to get the cue ball onto the blue. That needs a nice little bounce now to get himself on the black into the left corner. Does get it this time. Gets the black in as well. And very similar position in terms of the way the reds are spread out currently for him in the open play to the opening frame. But he didn't have to solve the issue of 4 reds being on the black ball cushion in the opening frame, and was leading by 39 points at that stage. He's only leading by 11 points right now. Discovery chat, I'll be back later. Fair enough, pick your interest, feel free to do that, and hopefully when you are back, Ronnie's going to be playing a little bit better stuff than what we've seen in the opening frame and a half. As I say, it has been a little bit of a Wilson show. Something that we knew could have happened, but you know, it very much has been the case of Wilson playing very good snooker and O'Sullivan being far from the snooker that he's managed to play the entire tournament here. So we're getting to the very important stage of this frame though, as Wilson pots the blue into the right middle, got himself onto the red into the right corner. So he's now 24 points clear. Still 59 on the table right now as he pots one of those reds. Gary in good touch, no doubt. He certainly is, and as I say, he's been one of the best players in terms of the break building throughout the entire tournament. And it's been all about him actually struggling with the pot success a little bit and not being perfect in terms of his safety play as well. But he's managed to overcome all those issues. And right now he gets himself into a very important part of the frame. The first red along the cushion to go into the right corner. And he takes that one with margin, so a nice shot there. So 33 points clear. And the black will make it 40 points clear. And then you'll have one more red and one more colour to try and take on. So I think he'll try and send the cue ball into the reds here. So has to rely on a little bit of good fortune. And does he have it? I think he does. And certainly no reaction on his face is a sign that he's going to be perfect for the red to get himself set up for the frame ball. In fact, he does have to go for a red along the cushion, but he's being pretty much dead on the cushion. Still wouldn't expect him to miss it, and could afford to play that one with a lot of power. And ultimately, it's looking like it's going to be the frame number 2 win for Gary Wilson. He's now 76 points on the board for himself. 48 is the gap, and 43 on the table. So Ronnie won't be coming back to the table in the current frame. And once again, Wilson just proving that it's not going to be an easy win for O'Sullivan if he is to manage it. He has to overcome from being 2 frames down there. It's certainly GG's right now. And a hope win for O'Sullivan. It still is possible. I would say that, you know, unless he gets himself 4-0 down, he's capable of overcoming all of those early frames deficits. Of course, especially recently and throughout the majority of his career, I would say, when he's not been playing too well, he had to face an issue of overcoming the early frames lost. So the opening, maybe the second, maybe the third. So a 2-0, 3-0 gap is something that you'll be familiar with. But the problem for himself is going to be that Gary Wilson so far doesn't look like he's going to stop on this. And he has to capitalize on all the mistakes that O'Sullivan makes for him. And so far, it has been 2 mistakes from Ronnie and 2 breaks for Wilson, and have managed to make it work there for him. So a break of 74 right now equals his best in the opening frame, and once again being on the yellow, he's got a chance to make it exactly the same break that was possible there for him in the opening frame, but having missed the yellow that time, he pots it this time around, gets himself onto the green to try and pot into the same corner pocket. So get himself lined up for the brown into the yellow pocket, and as the green wobbles in the jaws but just about drops in, it's going to be the break of 79 points right now as Wilson gets himself onto the brown and onto a straightforward 3-colour conclusion. So 18 points still on the table. This could be a break of 101 points. Exactly the points tally that he's got to himself right now, as he gets the blue in as well. So the ping to go in towards the left corner. And nice little push through shot. Getting himself on the black into the right corner for the century break. The first one of this quarterfinal. And once again, it has been a perfect start there for Guy Wilson. He has to find himself overcoming a big deficit now, RonnieOSullivan, because he is now losing by 2 frames to 0. Guy Wilson is off to a perfect start now. Big frame next. It is massive frame for RonnieOSullivan because he can't afford to lose that one. If you're 3-0 down against an informed Guy Wilson, you may as well, you know, not going to say not bother, but you may as well just forget about being the favourite for the match. As meanwhile, we played the second frame. Sean Murphy and Ding Joey managed to finish their second and frame matches as well. Ding managed to make a brilliant break of 78 points and already finished the third frame with Murphy responding with a break of 88 points in there as well. So it's only been 38 minutes since the quarterfinals have started, and Murphy and Ding already managed to play 3 frames there. It's 2 frames so far down here, and both of those were won by Gary Wilson. RonnieOSullivan still has to find himself being back on form, and hasn't managed to do it at this stage of the quarterfinal. We'll be hoping to try and produce a better performance in the frame number 3. Very much lucky to get himself onto the opening break after fluking a red into the right corner. Still didn't manage to get himself nicely on one of those reds into the right corner, and then had to go for a risky shot into the left middle. Missed that one, and the rest is history. Gary Wilson clearing up with a break of 101 points in the progress. So it is now a little bit all or nothing now for O'Sullivan. He needs to rediscover his form. He certainly had loads of chances in the opening frame. He's had some of those in the second frame as well, but just missing those long shots, the middle range shots, and giving away too much of a safety play. Wilson will be still relaxed at this point. He hasn't got too close to beating the RonnieOSullivan. As I say, he's only managed to do that once in his career at the Scottish Open, but that was best of 7. Never managed to do it in a format that was best of 9 or higher than that in terms of the frames amount. And understandably so, the percentage of RonnieOSullivan winning this match has gone down from 95% to 89 at this point. And let's see if he's going to go even more down, or is the Rocky going to fire the engine and finally get himself back on track here. For now, it's break-off shot by Gary Wilson. Needs to be just as good as he was in the opening frame. So this is a chance now for Ronnie to try and take the red into the right corner. The black is available there to him. And the question has to be asked, has he got what it takes to try and pot this red? The position on the black will be there for him. Showing final on Monday. Not going to be showing it, but I will be doing it anyway. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As I say, I think it's a little bit weird for the tournament to try and do the final on Monday. As I said, someone said in the chat yesterday that it's only happened on a bank holiday in the UK. And RonnieOSullivan, once again, starts the frame with the 4 points given away there to Wilson. And probably he's going to be quite happy with the cue ball dropping in after missing the red that I mentioned into the right corner. I mean, the history does repeat itself. Every single time RonnieOSullivan had a chance to go for a pot, he either missed a shot to try and get the cue ball very close to the reds, 4 points given away, or he potted the cue ball into the frames in 2 and 3 now. So it's a good little tradition now for Gary Wilson to start off with 4 points given away to his name. Ronnie right now has to find himself playing some good snooker. He was lucky not to give away anything there to Wilson, but was very close to being very lucky right now and getting the cue ball in behind the yellow. Instead, Wilson still has some of the room available there to him. But with the way he's approaching his shot, he doesn't seem to have too much of it to try and actually go for a safety shot that he would have liked to go for. Not too happy with it. So I think at this stage you can still try and go for the cushion escape onto the right hand cushion and send the cue ball into the reds. Just has to do it with the little power. Can't afford to generate too much on that. And just having a look there to see if he's got anything available, and just says no to me as if he was answering my question. So maybe it is going to be a 2-cushion escape there. And try and roll up to, well, from below to the reds. Risking to leave away one of those into the left corner. But doesn't seem like he's got anything else to try and play now. He's got, of course, an absolute do or die option to try and take the red into the corner pocket. And in the end, he finds a brilliant safety there, playing the same red that I mentioned, but getting the thin edge of that and getting himself out of trouble there. In fact, putting RonnieOSullivan under a little bit of pressure, something that didn't manage to overcome so far. Remember, did manage to make it into the semi-final stage of the China Grand Prix last season. Had to face Gary Wilson in there. Oh, sorry, not Gary Wilson, Kyron Wilson in there, which has already been knocked out on the tournament. And as it stands so far, RonnieOSullivan is still the highest seed left out in the tournament. Mark Williams is a close second there to him, being the world number 4 and 5. As Ronnie finds a good safety shot that time. Wilson will respond with his one. And just trying to get those reds developed. But I think he's going to respond with a fluke. But ultimately, it's probably going to be just a roll-up shot onto the brown. And returning a favour there from the previous frame. Didn't manage to do an awful lot of good there to Ronnie at that time. But are we going to see a hidden hope shot? Because this shot by Wilson, trying to roll up to the brown, was played perfectly. And don't want to see the hidden hope because I know what's going to happen. It's going to be a clear up for Wilson. And it's not going to be a hidden hope now. So Sullivan has gone for a 4-cushion escape. And it's looking very good line there. And it's a perfect shot there from the first time of Walski. This actually was a shot that you could afford to try and give away a couple of those points. But Sullivan making that one absolutely perfectly. The only red that is kind of conceded was the red along the cushion into the right corner, but with the distance in between the red and the cushion itself, Wilson was never going to take that one on. And we're back to the safety play. So this is better from Ronnie, but he needs to string those shots consistently. And just try and get a little streak of those. Put some pressure on Wilson that he's managed to do in the second frame. But when Wilson crumbled under pressure a little bit, he gave him away a red into the right corner, which he ultimately missed but fluked. And got a break of 24 points in the progress. And you won't be too happy with this shot because he puts the black out of the game and onto the cushion. So I don't think we're going to see the black very much until the later stage of the frame because it's not like it's just on the cushion, but it's also covered up by the reds from the left-hand side. But in terms of the cue ball position, it's a nice shot there from Ronnie. But it's the one that still allows Wilson to go for a red into the left corner, trying to get the cue ball up the table. And he refuses that one once again there. So clearly, the 2-frame gap just playing on his mind a little bit, understanding that no risks have to be taken. And Ronnie's going to be the one that he's probably going to be forced into taking risks. And therefore, with the way he's been playing so far, it could be an easier chance there to Ronnie. To Wilson, I should say, because Ronnie has played a very aggressive shot and a very risky one as well. And just talk about the chances that I mentioned. Wilson doesn't have to take any aggressive shots because there will be shots like that there from Ronnie that he misjudges the positional sense of the red. And he gives that one away into the right corner now for Wilson. So play this one with a lot of power, although he has to make sure he gets the cue ball in towards the blue ball area. But I think he's going to land a bit in between of all of those. And a lot of distance there in between the cue ball and the blue. So it's a difficult shot there for him. But it's probably the one that he has to take on. The reds are going to be waiting there for him. At least one of those into the right corner. Onto the lower part of it. So he just has to concentrate on the blue, making the blue in. And just getting as little pace on the cue ball as he can. And he manages to do that one really, really nicely again here. So Wilson, the man to catch and the man on form. 11 points so far. On the break of 6 already. The black out of the game. Probably the only bad news that he's got to himself right now. But the pink and the blue all being available. He's going to do him an awful lot of good. But the thing about going for the blue every single time, you have to make sure you get yourself with an angle. Whether it is going to be lower part of the blue or the upper part of it. You can't afford to go straight on those. So for now, it's a good shot there for him. Just about finds himself on the top part of it. And we'll have a couple of more reds to try and play for into the right corner. Having the full control of the cue ball now. And developing a couple of more reds right now. As he's got potentially a rest shot to try and play. But you also can try and generate a little bit of power on the cue ball with a backspin. Get the pink freed up away from the reds. And get the pink spot available there for pink to be respotted. Something that he can try and do. But of course, if that's not going to be the time, if that's not going to be the case there for him, it's going to be pink going back to the black spot there. And very important for Wilson to just try and, well, keep up the pace that he has been playing with this one so far. The break of 18 points is going to be available there for him if he pots the pink. And still having a couple of more reds there to his name that he can try and go for right now. Although he's just having a look at this pink and something doesn't seem to please him about it. And I don't know about you, but I can see a clear path of just playing through the cue ball now. And yes, you'll have a little bit of angle on the red into the left corner, but don't think it's going to be something to worry about. But it's certainly something that he's worrying Gary Wilson right now. He's got a couple of shots now to make to try and free up the position even more there. And in fact, he may not even need the black until very much the end of a frame. And he had to play through the reds there, so manages to find the gap there. So really nice execution once again. Got himself onto a red into the left corner now. So a break of 19 points. And looks like the pink will be able to be respotted on its own spot there. So it's not ideal there for Wilson just because of how close it is to the red. I think the majority of the pockets are going to be blocked out there for it. And right now, Wilson probably hasn't got enough of the angle on this red. If he takes it into the left corner, he can't go for the blue there. So, unless he absolutely rattles the red in, which is not an ideal situation either. So he plays this one with topspin. So he's still going for the pink into the right middle. And has he landed well on this one? Doesn't want to be too straight on it, because he'll have, once again, a very little margin to find himself on the red on the next shot. So just play it through this one and send it into the upper part of the jaw. Nice shot once again. So 31 points advantage. Referee will respot the pink once again there. And 107 points still available there up for grabs. Of course, it's going to be a little bit less than that with the black being out of the game. And referee just being asked by the Wilson to, I think, clear one of the reds that is going to be play right now. So once again, not perfect in terms of right now. This red into the right corner is an easy pot, obviously, but Wilson is pretty straight on this shot. So unless he wants to accelerate the cue ball a lot there, put a lot of power on it, use the left-hand side of the table and its cushion to get it up to blue there. That's option 1 there, but option 2 is going to be just trying to measure it to perfection and line himself up for the pink into the right middle. So important couple of shots right now, because he is doing some of the good work there to the position. And the last thing that he wants to do is give the position away pretty much in perfect condition there to RonnieOSullivan. With him being far from his best yet, but still try and rediscover his form very, very quickly. And Wilson for now will go for a nice little cannon onto the reds. Will free himself up for one of those into the right middle. So just having a look to see if he can play through this shot now to get himself nicely on the pink into the left corner. Doesn't want to have too much of an angle there, as he wants a clear path for the cue ball to land on the next red. Looking to do that very nicely again now. So taking the time on the break, but ultimately didn't look like once he was out of position or struggling there. So 45 points is the advantage there for him. So only 91 on the table though. So that amount is decreasing by every shot, of course, that Wilson is playing. Eliminating the reds one by one there. 46 points right now. Gets himself onto the ping. Ronnie in trouble. He's in big trouble now because I wouldn't even say it's the scoreline, because if he goes into this match with being 3-0 down and he plays some of the form that he was producing against Maguire or Jones, he could still find himself winning that. But it's the way that Wilson is playing. He's brilliant so far. He didn't make any mistakes, and O'Sullivan's made plenty of those. So I had a bad feeling about this one before it started. But you know what? I think he probably came like two matches after. I had this feeling that this was going to happen against Maguire. But then I seen Ronnie produce a brilliant snooker there. And pretty much flawless. And I thought, you know what? He could be back there. So, I mean, let's be fair. Until the quarterfinals have started, he would have been a massive favourite for the tournament. Barring Shaun Murphy. But it looks like the favourite is going to be knocked out now, if he continues to play like that, because Gary Wilson is marching towards a 3-0 lead now, which in a best-of-9 format is very, very difficult for you to try and recover. Of course, he's got one more frame until the intermission, which probably becomes the deciding one, really, for O'Sullivan, if he's going to stay in this match for longer, or he's going to be eliminated with potentially a whitewash there. Because if he goes into the intermission with a 4-0 lead there, Wilson, I mean, the amount of confidence he's going to have and the amount of damage he's going to do to Ronnie is just immeasurable. Right now he's on 59 points, so the blue and the red, which is going to be available into the right corner, is all he needs right now to make sure that this is the last that we're going to see of RonnieOSullivan once again now in the third frame. Still very, very much a poor performance, only managing a break of 27 points in the opening frame, managed to get himself a break of 20-something points in the frame number 2, but all of that came from a fluke. That didn't ultimately change anything, and Wilson is off to a great start right now. I mean, he's on 66 points on the break. Certainly, this frame is going to be over. And it's a 3-0 gap there that he's got ahead of himself. Needs 4th frame or out. Well, he probably needs a little bit more than that, but that's going to be a nice start, because, you know, if you go into... He needs basically every single frame now, because until at least sort of 4-3 format. Because if he's trailing by 3-0, if he wants to win this one, really he needs to win 3 frames of his own. Because if he goes into the 7th frame being 4-2 down, I mean, is he capable of winning 3 frames on the bounce there against in-form Gary Wilson? I don't really think so. And the way for him to try and do it is try and put him under a lot of pressure. And just try and, I don't know, genuinely, you have to just put him in his chair and hope that he's going to lose his form while he's being called out there. But for him to do that, he needs to find some form of his own, which so far has been way below par. And listen, from the position that he's had at the start of this frame, the fact that he's still challenging for a century, as he gets a brilliant cannon onto the red, that was covering the black for the majority of this frame, and right now he's still in with a great chance of making this century break. And just to say that he will miss the pink though, and there's going to be the break of 79 points, and that's still going to be more than good enough there, because it is going to be a 3-0 gap there to Gary Wilson. So it is looking like something very, very similar to what we've seen against Xi'An yesterday, but of course it is the world number 4 that he's up against, and something that very few people would have predicted going into this match. It is now RonnieOSullivan 0, Gary Wilson 3. And Shaun Murphy, by the way, what a form that he's playing. He's managed to, in less than an hour, he managed to finish 4 frames against Ding Junhui, winning 3 of those. I mean, whoever wins out of this match, by the way, if they're going to have to face Shaun Murphy, I mean, if you're watching that one without popcorn, you're missing out on something badly. Because that's going to be an absolute blockbuster of a semi-final. Whoever it's going to be. I mean, if Wilson wins this one, fair play. And if he turns up in the similar sort of form, it's going to be a very, very interesting match for you to see. It may actually be the first time that we ever have a draw in the snooker final, this semi-final, because just how little it has been to separate the two of them. Flawless performance from Wilson. Obviously can't see what Murphy has been doing, but, you know, when you finish 4 frames in less than an hour and you win 3 of those in a dominant break, leaving your opponent pretty much with no points to score, it's a good sign for you, potentially going into the semi-final. And Yeah, Ronnie right now comes into a massive frame, because if he does lose this one, he is out in my point of view. It's going to be just too much of a mountain for him to try and climb. And he has to produce now. He has to perform. Going to win 5-0. Well, I mean, if he is going to do that, it will be an absolute story of the season there for him. Because not only will he sort of produce a whitewash on the greatest of all time there, RonnieOSullivan. As I say, he's never beaten him in such a high format match or anything higher. He lost out 5 times on him on similar sort of performances. But Ronnie has to go for this bathroom break, and hopefully he's got something in his locker that he can try and take on now into this snooker table. And hopefully take away something from Gary Wilson's locker, because, I mean, the worst part about this one now is that if Ronnie manages to come up with a brilliant answer to all of the questions that Wilson has been asking him of, he's still going to have a massive challenge of Gary Wilson himself, because it's not like if Ronnie starts to play really well, Wilson is going to say, oh, you know what, you're playing well, I may as well just go completely off the gas pedal and allow you to get yourself completely back in this match. I don't think Wilson's going to do that, so it's 2 frames or you're out. You have to win now if you're Ronnie, and he only has himself to blame. Had chances in every single one of those frames, and once again, what a way to start off now. What a horrible way to start off. He leaves away off a break off. He leaves the red into the left middle. So the worst part about this quarterfinal may actually be the intermission. That, I mean, if you look at the way Gary Wilson managed to produce the breaks in the previous 3 frames, he's going to come very soon now. He'll get himself into the break once again. Puts the red into the left middle. Gets himself on the blue. Yes, he's on the wrong side of it. But because that break-off shot by Ronnie wasn't perfect, he leaves away another red into the right corner. And, I mean, it's almost like we never left the frame number 3. Ronnie played 1 shot in this frame, and he already looks like he's going to be a massive underdog to win this one. Wilson is off to a flyer start, getting 7 points. Lost the cue ball a little bit there, so semi-difficult shot on the black here. Has to put a lot of power on this shot now, and very weird miss there, because the black sort of wobbled in the jaw, has gone a bit too close to it, and has jumped out of it as well. So, not going to say Ronnie's going to be too happy about it, because he doesn't have a chance now. And in fact, he thought he had a chance, and he needs the cue ball to go in behind the yellow, otherwise he's in deep trouble, because he's gone for the red there. I didn't even consider, and he's left it over the pocket now for Wilson, because clearly things like he is going to be going into the intermission with a 4-0 deficit, so he may as well go for it. Wilson now goes for a massive swerve in around the yellow, and a bit of a do or die shot. And I mean, what a shot he just played. Is he going to be on the colour though? He is. I mean, from the distance, once again, it is looking like you'll have the world number 1, Gary Wilson, playing against the world number 75 or something, RonnieOSullivan, from the performance that we're seeing, because Wilson is managing to produce some of the best shots that I've seen the whole tournament, something that I haven't seen Sean Murphy do in his match against Kyle Wilson, and Ronnie just seems to be completely out of his depth there, and, well, he looks like he's given up, to be honest. Something that you can say sometimes about RonnieOSullivan when he's not playing well, but as I say, to come off of such a brilliant start to their campaign, it is very disappointing to see what he's actually come to. And right now it's Wilson with another chance now to put another frame to bed there, get himself into a 4-0 lead. And the best news for O'Sullivan all evening here in China is the fact that he could be going into the intermission very quickly, but Wilson does show in some signs that he's actually human, so misses another red now, but I mean, it doesn't get better for Ronnie, because he still hasn't got a red to find himself as an opener. Has to go for a safety shot because of the black covering up the left-hand side of the pocket, and has to be absolutely flawless right now with his cue ball control. And starts off decent, but still leaves the red away potentially into the right corner. Need to see the better camera angle on that. Ronnie needs to remind everyone right now why he's the GOAT. I mean, yeah, I think it was you, Pick Your Interest, who said you were going to leave for half an hour. I mean, what a half an hour it has been for you. Because, you know, you leave when it's 0-0 there or something, and you come back to Wilson dominating frame number 4 now with a scoreline of 3 frames to nil. Could have been a 4-0 gap there, you feel, if he managed to pot that black, which is currently covering the left corner pocket. But 3-1 is still not a death sentence there for Ronnie, so he has to make this one count there for him, and he's going to have a chance there. So not going to throw the white towel in just yet, as Michael Holt did a couple of months ago against Mark Selby. He still has to fight for this one. It is not over just yet. He's got a red now into the right corner, and it's all about getting on the black here, and he's not going to do that. So very lucky to actually have the pink covering the left middle. I'd say covering. It's just a shot that is possible, but the cue ball is in an awkward position now, and I mean, everything is going wrong now for Ronnie, because he feel like he was always going to end up on the black with it being over the left corner, and in the end it didn't. So a shot now for him to stay in his break now, where the camera is showing the angles. I mean, I don't know what on earth are you doing there with the camera angle. Why are you showing me what you can see on the table? And now I've just seen him miss a shot, not having actually seen what he's done there. I mean, that is absolutely horrible thing of a broadcast. And apparently, yeah, all I can say to you is he's actually missed the ping. No idea what happened, because the camera was very busy showing what you could see out of himself. So Wilson has got a red into the right corner now, but I think it's the one that is covered up by the pink here, potentially. So if he's going to find a cut there, it's going to have to be a very, very precise one. But on top of that, and we could actually be heading into the re-rack, to be honest, because unless that red gets spotted very soon into the right corner, I think we could be heading into the re-rack. But the cue ball could be heading in towards the green pocket. So is he going to drop there? It is going to drop there. Hello, mate. Good to see you again. Lovely to see Lexim as well. And he's 4 points given away now to Ronnie. So Wilson showing some signs of potentially pressure getting to him, but he's probably made more mistakes in this frame than he's made in the previous 3 frames. Ronnie manages to take this red this time. Is he going to be on the black? At least this time around he is. So I was here on stream for the Saudi Arabia finals earlier. Yes. I'm not going to say I remember you, because that would be a lie, but thank you for reminding me, and thank you very much for joining as well. So now we're back to the action of RonnieOSullivan. He's got himself into a position of inner monster reds. The black is going to be restored back to its original position. And the red can try and go into the left corner pocket there. Must be Ronnie, thanks for the stream. No worries, pick your interests. As I say, it still could be far from over, especially if Ronnie manages to take this frame going into the intermission. Just get himself a little bit of a chance, get himself momentum, and just try and be playing some good stuff now. And it's a lovely shot to start off. It wasn't easy to find the way onto the black into the right corner. Never write Ronnie off there, but I'm writing off. I wouldn't do it just yet. As I said previously when he was about to go 2-0 down, I said he is capable of coming back from 3-0 down. I think 4-0 is going to be too much there for him. But 3-1 is a very different story. And going into the intermission, you're going to have all of a sudden potentially Gary Wilson spending in his chair for pretty much half an hour there. I feel that Ronnie might be whitewashed himself 5-0 after him being in good form early in this competition. Well, it's a massive frame now for him. And he's been putting some good reds there, to be fair. Something that he didn't manage to do in any of the previous frames. And he's just capable of flicking that switch on and, getting from first gear that he was throughout the majority of this match up onto 5th gear, which is going to be difficult to stop there for Gary Wilson, no matter how well he's actually playing. But right now it's 23 points advantage there. And lovely little super chat there from Michael. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Ronnie come back on there. Going to be very interesting to see if he is actually going to come back on there. Ronnie will lose interest very soon. I don't think he will. I think that's, you could say that if it was round 2. I don't think he's going to lose interest if it is a quarter-final. So, yeah, as I say, massive thanks to Michael McTurney. Thank you very much for the support. And Ronnie is off to a great gear now. Gets himself off the red into the left corner. So the black to go into the right corner this time around. So a gap of 39 points. He still has 67 points, I should say, available in terms of the red. But this is a lot better from Ronnie. His control of the cue ball has been pretty much sublime now throughout this break of 48 points. And he's got himself a rare shot to try and play right now after not being too happy with the angle. He's got into the shot into the left middle. So just roll this red into the corner pocket nicely. And even if Ronnie gets through this round, I feel that he'll be beaten by Sean Murphy in the semi-finals if he gets through as well. Well, yeah, as I say, it's a massive task for him to try and do that. And he has to focus on taking it one frame at a time. You know, you're not going to be a favourite no matter who you're facing if, you know, if you're going to be 3-0 down. But he could be about to make it, being 3-1 down if he takes the red in, which he does. So it's a lovely little frame that from Ronnie, and very important to actually make this one count there for him. He's not out of this yet. And you could say that, you know, he just was finding it a little bit difficult. But if he finds himself in good form, Gary Wilson still has to play some of his best snooker, which is something that we haven't seen in frame before. As I say, it's very important, not just for Ronnie to find his form, but for Wilson to go back a level. Something that we've seen in frame 4. And Ronnie managed to take the invitation. And he's not going to take the green, though, but ultimately, he is going to be the break of 64 points, which is going to wrap off the first mini session. Barely an hour in it, and an hour and 10 minutes to be precise. We're going to have the 15 minutes intermission right now, and we're going to be back for some more action in between RonnieOSullivan and Gary Wilson. Rocket is just about in this quarterfinal after losing the opening 3 frames. He's now got himself back in the equation by winning the 4th frame. Still could be a massive changing point and a turning point here. As RonnieOSullivan 1, Gary Wilson 3, and we'll see you in 15 minutes time. Stay tuned in, it is far from over just yet. Rocket could still find his way back into this quarterfinal. And after a very quick intermission break of 15 minutes time, now we are back to the main action here. And it's Guy Wilson up against RonnieOSullivan once again here, as we wait to see which one of those two will be heading into the semi-final stage. Guy Wilson had a lovely lead of 3 frames to 0 there, but RonnieOSullivan, very important there for him to win the last frame of the first mini session, and hopefully you'll be able to build on that one. Already come back after the intermission. Well, hopefully for the match to get more interesting, he has to. Right now it's a decent break there by Wilson, but he's got one of those reds that he can try and pot there, Ronnie, but he misses it. It was always going to be the only red that he could actually concede there to Wilson. And I think he's going to be fine here. Cue ball has finished under it, so he's not going to be able to cut it into the left corner. So Ronnie probably going for the right shot in the end. Get himself a free chance of split the reds up from the black. And he made the pot, was very close to doing that. And Wilson himself is not going to have a massive advantage there. I was about to get my hair cut, but I'll wait to see if Big Ron pulls this back well. Yeah, I would just say stick around for one more frame at least, because we're guaranteed to have 6 frames here. It's going to be a win of 5 frames to 1 to Wilson. And I think the first frame of after the intermission is going to be very important, especially for Ronnie here, because can he re-establish the form that he finished the first mini session in? And so far the answer is probably not in terms of the safety play. It just seems to be marginal every single time he comes to the table and plays the safety there. Could have easily left a red into the left corner there for Wilson. In fact, I'm not actually sure he hasn't done that, because Wilson is going for the red on that part of the table. So he could try and take this one, Wilson, now. Get himself into the lovely little break. But he misses that red by some margin, something that we haven't seen a lot of in the opening mini session. And is that red going to be available there for Ronnie? It's the only chance that he'll have to have an opener, and I think he will have that chance. The cue ball, though, is very close to the right hand cushion there. So this is a massive shot now for Ronnie to get himself started in frame number 5. Needs to make this one in, and doesn't. Has he given anything away there? So far very scrappy there at the start, and I think he has left out a chance there for Wilson. If he takes a rest shot into the right corner. So very important for Wilson now to make sure he builds on that mistake from O'Sullivan after making out earlier. So black is still very much in the game, but I think the rest shot that I mentioned doesn't seem to interest Gary Wilson too much. And well, we're going to have a safety battle once again here. Even though we did have 4 frames finish pretty much under 70 minutes, it feels like we had a safety battle pretty much in every single one of those frames, at least to an extent. And yeah, it's just have Ronnie and Gary for now, just rolling up to the bunch of reds. Gary may try to break that tradition by sending the cue ball up the table once again here. Is Ronnie going to lose? If I knew, I'd tell you. I mean, can't see the future, but he will if he loses this frame, in my point of view. I don't think he can overcome a 4-1 deficit, so has to win a couple of more frames until Wilson potentially gets his 4th one, and he's going to be only a frame away there from the semi-final spot, although it's a nice little shot there from Ronnie. First one in a while that I've seen him play. A really good safety there. Still not going to put Gary Wilson into a lot of trouble. He's been playing good, though. Today doesn't look as... Yes, it's a good point, and it just goes back to every day is a new day, and if you played really well in the semi-final, doesn't guarantee you're going to play well in the final stage. But Wilson does seem to be showing the signs of maybe pressure, maybe he's losing a little bit of his form, because after that decent safety shot there from Ronnie, once again he's got himself a chance into the left corner. Has to be taking these ones though. Has missed a similar sort of shot previously in the match. Can't afford to be losing any more of those, and makes this one stick. Now, where's the cue ball going to finish? Very important for him to try and get on these blue with an angle, and it's not going to happen. So, unless... It's not really an unless here, because you can't take the pink, because that's too much of a cut, and the cue ball is not going to go anywhere. So, just roll through the blue here and try and get himself up for a rest shot potentially. Just try and leave as little angle as possible. But by trying to do that, I think he's actually overrun for it slightly. So he's still going for it, which is a good sign. Probably a sign that he can see enough of it. But yeah, changes the approach of the shot. I did think he's tried to generate a bit too little angle for himself. And surely he's just going to use that red as a safety shot for him. And you'll use the one next to him instead. The line of the cue ball, though, is decent. Not going to be in behind the green, though. But this is better from Ronnie, at least. You know, I know he wasn't perfect in that positional shot. But making that red, landing awkward on the blue in a difficult position, with the majority of the reds being quite tight to each other. And once again, is he going to have another chance now with Wilson putting one more red very close to the right corner? But I think the pink is going to be in the way of it enough there to probably force Ronnie to play a safety shot of the same red, because he can't afford to be leaving that red available there for Wilson. And this is going to be a difficult safety. He does play a safety from here. And yeah, this is what I didn't want to see Ronnie trying to go for a very risky shot with a lot of left-hand spin there, and just trying to get himself past the pink, where it wasn't really possible at that time, you would think. And he's given away this position now to Guy Wilson. And this is why it was so important for Wilson to just try and build that 3-frame gap there, because he'll force Ronnie to be impatient, because he knows he has to make it count in this frame. And well, this is what happens if you are impatient. Even if you are RonnieOSullivan, you'll miss the chances and you'll give away those chances to your opponent. Wilson can try and make this one work for him, as the recent couple of safeties that they played have freed up 3 reds or so. Still will have to do a lot of adjustments to the positional side of things, but as he's shown previously in the match, he's more than capable of doing that. And all the work that Ronnie has done in the 4th frame could very much be undone here if Wilson makes this break count for himself. Although he does line himself up with a little bit of an awkward shot now. I think he was trying to play for the right corner. Instead, he'll go for the right middle shot. So push through this shot right now, and has to be careful not to catch the front jaw, which he manages to avoid. And it's a lovely shot in the end for him to recover. So shot with the rest now on the pink, and I think he'll go on the brown spot, as its spot is not going to be available. And the blue and the black are currently back on their spots now, and O'Sullivan just has to sit in his chair and wait patiently for his chance now. The chance that may never actually come there. In the opening 3 frames, Wilson was very clinical with every single one of the chances that he's had. 4th frame, seeing him a lot less clinical in that regard, but it's all about just being and using those chances. And Wilson won't be happy with himself there, because he's got an awkward shot on the red to try and take the red into the right corner. The black is going to be compromised by the red as well now. So is the pink going to go back on his spot here? The referee's having a good look. And yeah, he's going to go back on the brown spot instead. And it's not going to be a touch and ball here. At least I don't think it is. It's not going to matter, to be fair, because if Wilson does want to go for an attacking shot, he has to play the red into the right corner. But he's looking to play a safety shot now. So the touch and ball that referee has called is going to matter for him to just try and get the cue ball in behind the green here. Lovely little line. And it's a perfect shot there from Wilson. And it's a really nice recovery from pretty much the first time that we've seen him not make the break to the table, the one that counts. And straight away he puts O'Sullivan into a lot of trouble here, with only one of the reds being close to the cushion. And apart from that, so going to be very risky for O'Sullivan to try and roll up to. And it's going to be a 2-cushion escape, similar to the one that he had to play in the opening frame. But the line is looking very good there for him. He just had to play this one with a little bit less power, because he could have left that red available there for Wilson into the right corner. Instead, he probably has got the most out of the shot that he had ahead of himself. Wilson has got a shot into the left middle, but that was always going to be there. And it's still a very complicated shot for him to try and go for. Instead, he'll push that red onto the left-hand cushion and get himself into a nice little position with a cue ball. So cue ball tucked in behind the green where the reds... so the rest of the reds are pretty much spread out there. There's a cluster of 4 of those underneath the pink spot, and there's actually going to be one of those available for Wilson to try and take on into the right corner. So there's a cluster of 3 reds, there's a cluster of 4 reds, and the remaining 4 are spread out nicely. One of those is going to be an attempt of a pot there for Wilson. Going to have to do a lot of work with the cue ball, as the black doesn't seem to be available, so has to get that one away from danger. And has he managed to just hold the cue ball enough there for the black? I think he hasn't, because even though this black is possible, the cue ball is going to go into the reds there, and he hasn't got a backup option. So unless he manages to find the way of the cue ball pretty much around the entire table, this is a really difficult shot there for him. I did expect him to take this with a lot more power there. Ronnie won't play for months when he loses. He throws his dummy out of the pran. And, I mean, Wilson, he's alright on this red though, so he manages to just catch the bunch of reds there with the 4 of them being very close to each other and get himself onto the red, into the right corner now. So, being 25 points clear, this is looking even better now for him. And just has to make the next colour stick for him. But this is a very, very surprising miss, and it's the one that could cost him very dearly as well, because it's a break of 8 points, and Gary Wilson is finally showing some signs of vulnerability here, because O'Sullivan has got the same red into the right corner. Just drop this one in, the black is going to be there waiting for him. And just as I say, Wilson had a little bit of a tough time navigating his way through the cue ball. O'Sullivan drops the red in, and all of a sudden he finds himself back in this match. And, well, not back in this match, back in this frame for now. To find himself back in the match, he needs to win this frame. And goes into the red straight away. Probably the wrong decision if you ask me. The wrong decision, and he's not going to be on anything here. I don't know why you would do that. He had at least 2 more reds available to his name. He decided to try and go for it right here, right now. And I don't think he's in a position of the match to try and do it. He's having a look to see if there's a plant available, but I mean, surely there isn't. And well, the thing that he has to do right now is to try and be a little bit patient. I mean, this is the sign where if he's actually going to try and find a pot here, he's going to be signs of him actually throwing his toys out of the pram. But it looks like he's going to go for the sensible option and just use the chance to play a good safety there, being so close to the reds. Disappointed, 100% disappointed with the position that he's had ahead of himself. Pushes the black on towards the right corner pocket. Nice little angle on the cue ball, but wants to be very close to the ball cushion, and he will be. So it's a good shot there from Ronnie. Probably about as good as he could have managed there. Wait, what shot did Gary miss? He missed the red into the right corner there. So after he had a difficult shot on the black, it looked like he actually landed himself perfectly on that red, but still just undercut it slightly, left it over the corner pocket, but Ronnie managed to take 8 points from that break. So he's now finding himself 17 points down now on Wilson, and still also play for in a very important 5th frame. Well, the match has turned into all of those frames being important for Ronnie, and Wilson will just be desperate to try and get over the line as quickly as he can. One player that you don't want chasing you is going to be RonnieOSullivan, especially after you haven't actually beat him in such a format before. And Wilson, once again, that safety is going to pay off there from Ronnie, because he's going to have one more chance. If the cue ball is not going to land in below the yellow, Wilson is certainly showing signs that he is vulnerable right now. Ronnie has to capitalize on that. The split that he's done to the reds previously has led him on all of those being available. So if he makes this red in, gets himself onto the next colour, which he does seem to be hesitant about, so clearly a sign that it's not going to be too easy. Pink is out of the equation, so blue or black now for him. If he makes the red, he does make the red, but is he going to be on the blue? The answer is probably not here. He can try and take the blue into the right corner, but this is far from ideal for a player that has been struggling to find a perfect form. I just don't... It's probably just about too little of a distance in between the cue ball and the blue for him to make a mistake, but I still don't really want to see him take this shot on. But he is going to do it because he's got no options, to be fair. So massive shot once again now. It's pretty straight now. And Has to control the cue ball very nicely, and he has managed to do it. So, 2 difficult shots there from Ronnie, and he's back in this frame right now, being down by only 11 points. The position is looking very promising at the start there. 2 reds covered up by the black ball cushion. So 43 points that he's not going to score, you would think, unless he goes into them. But until then, he's got 6 reds to try and do something with. And just trying to choose the first one to play. Gets the cue ball past another red and onto the black there. Just about, I think he's just about done enough there to get himself nicely onto this black. Still can't afford to take the eye off the pot now. Drop this one in and get himself onto the red. Either one into the right corner, or if he's got one into the left corner, that's going to be even better. Because he'll be pretty much a fairy tale run for Ronnie. Being in and around the black spot, and all of the reds being opened up nicely. So, this is not over just yet. He's now finding himself 2 points down. Wilson had a 21-point cushion at some point, but has been showing signs of weakness in frames 5 and 4. It's something that Ronnie has managed to exploit in the previous frame, and now has to do exactly the same thing here. So from the 4 reds that are available, if he takes all of those with the black there, he'll be around 35 points clear. So not going to be enough there for him to win the frame. He has to go into the bunch of reds that I'm talking about, underneath the black spot, onto the black ball cushion. Ronnie comeback, and most of the reds possible, yes they are, but it's not going to be enough for him to make this one with Wilson eating snookers. 5-3 Ronnie. I mean, Edison, Ronnie comeback. I did say it was going to be 5-3 to Ronnie until the match has started. I wouldn't certainly say that right now, especially with them being 3-0 down. But this is a start there. Get yourself 2 frames on the board. You see Wilson showing signs of vulnerability, but O'Sullivan there trying to do something about the reds. And I think he might have tried to do too much at that time, because he has to go for the red now, very awkwardly, into the left corner. And the cue ball is going to catch the red there, but he's alright on the black now. He manages to take the red into the left corner. He's still on the black now. So all about dropping this one in, and he's going to be back in the prime spot there. Can he win this frame from here? Yes, he can now. All about making this black and getting yourself on the position on one of the reds just above the pink spot. One of them is going to be really easy for him to pot if he gets anywhere near it into the left corner. The other one a bit more difficult, but still more than manageable there for Ronnie. So just lands a little bit awkward on this black, and this delay of the referee, he still is not happy with the cue ball, and I don't really like the fact that he's taking so much time now on this shot. This could be a distraction there, momentum breaker. Referee should do better there, not being able to clear the cue ball from the first time of asking. And should be GG from here. Well, he should be, but the way this quarterfinal has gone, don't take anything for granted. Anything is missable. Ronnie still is not up to his best, and has to navigate his way out of this black, which he underrun slightly for. The referee has to take a second attempt of clearing out the white there. Any difficult red? Not really. He's got one on the black ball cushion, which is still remaining there, but that's not going to be needed there, because by that time Wilson will have 2 snookers or so required to be back in this frame. So all about the black now after 2 delays there. So just make this one in and get yourself on the red, which he does nicely in terms of potting the black. Overruns slightly for the red, but he's going to be fine there. Once again, just saying to the referee that he wants something cleared on the black as well. So 29 points clear, and 2 reds that he's got available to him will put him way past that 35-point zone. So 3 shots needed now, and he'll be nicely away into the 6th frame and still being into this quarterfinal with a decent chance there. 29 lead with... I told you never write Ronnie off. Martin Miller, you are the biggest hypocrite I've ever seen in this chat. You have said it's going to be 5-0 loss there for RonnieOSullivan every single time in the intermission. And now you're saying that I'm writing him off. Come on. I have to do better than that. I have to do better than that. I get the funny side of it though. Ronnie needs to make this red now into the left corner after having the referee to clear the black. Don't really like him taking all of those pauses there. And this is the missable shot now. He's on the run for this black, so just cut this one in And be very careful with it. This is not the time for the stream to be having a buffering for him, but in the end he makes the black in really, really nicely. So a frame ball now for O'Sullivan to be facing only a single frame deficit. And once again it's going to be the red into the right corner, which he manages to take right now. So it is going to be 38 points advantage to him, with 35 still on the table, and certainly the last that we've seen of Gary Wilson in this frame, as he manages to take the black into the left corner. The red will follow up shortly, and now we can try and focus on a significant sort of break. It's not going to be a century break though, but it could be the highest break of the match for RonnieOSullivan, as he manages to do it. 270 break. You're right, Ronnie, for real, 2-3. To be fair, I said I had a bad feeling about this. I guess in the beginning I was right, but Ronnie's back. Well, it's too early to say that. He still can't afford to lose any of those frames, but he certainly has been a lot better in frames number 4 and 5. And ultimately, very important fact is that Guy Wilson has been way below average ever since he managed to get himself into a 3-0 lead there. Ronnie has to exploit this, and I do genuinely think right now he has got more of a chance of winning this by 5 frames to 3 than he's got of winning this by 5 frames to 4. Because if Wilson manages to break that curse and break that streak of O'Sullivan, winning all those frames in a row, he can try and build himself a little bit of momentum. And we're already seeing signs of impatience from Ronnie. And the last thing I want to see is him losing one of those frames, as he goes for an absolute mighty trick shot. And I think he would like to use his wildcard on the fluke a little bit later on, as the pink will stay out, but ultimately it is going to be RonnieOSullivan 2, Guy Wilson 3 there. So very, very important frame there for RonnieOSullivan. Now, another important frame for him to try and recover there, put himself level on frames with Guy Wilson, finding all sorts of form on that. Pretty much total clearance, you can call it, missing out on the pink and black in the end. Ronnie doesn't quit. I mean, as much as I want to say that's true, I don't really think that is true. I mean, do you need a reminder about Stephen Hendry's walkout? Do you need a reminder of how many times he was losing by 3 frames to 0 and he says, I just don't fancy it? Hopefully it's not going to be today though. And so far the signs have been there that he still has got something to offer. How many pauses was Ronnie taking for the referee cleaning the ball? Yeah, he was actually taking a lot of those. I mean, it took twice for him to ask to clean the white there on an important shot, which I found ridiculous because it's just such a momentum breaker. I get that he's not going to be feeling any sort of pressure there, but still. And then he's managed to do it again on the black there. So 3 or 4 in that frame, all coming very close to each other. By the way, Shaun Murphy's dominating Ding Junhui right now. 4 frames to 1 advantage and 20 points to 0 lead in the frame number 6. So this is looking like it's going to be an all English semi-final after Daniel Wells and Mark Williams having an all Welsh semi-final there. So very much the UK players dominating right here in the China Grand Prix, unless Ding Junhui manages to pull off an ultimate comeback there and win 4 frames on the bounce. He fights on every moment. I do sense a little bit of sarcasm in there, but hopefully that's going to be the case today. Shaun Murphy should have won a lot more, to be fair. He's so damn good when he's on. Yeah, I mean, that is a good statement there, because when he's on it. Who's got better prime? Shaun Murphy, Neil Robertson, and Mark Selby? Here's a question for you, because I know who I'm going to pick. In their prime, when they're playing really well, Mark Selby, Shaun Murphy, or Neil Robertson? I know it's a bit unfair on Selby, because out of those 3 he is the 4-time world champion. Shaun Murphy is in the British Open is very superior. I mean, he did win the ITV Slam there recently in the Cheltenham, beating Anthony McGill by 10 frames to 7. And Ronnie comes back to the table. Very important frame right here, right now. Frame number 6. Ronnie needs to win this one to get his foot on the pedal and try and dominate the remainder of this quarterfinal. Can't afford to give any more of the chances to Guy Wilson than he has to. And has to be playing absolutely perfect here. Once again, the break-off shot is dreadful. Just what we've seen in frame number 4 there. I mean, it's exactly a carbon copy of it. And Wilson, once again, has such a cheap opener into the left middle. And he does make this one, so this is not the start that he would have needed, Ronnie, there. And he can't get complacent. As I say, he's still down by a frame, and if he loses one more, he has to find himself being in the task of winning 3 frames on the bounce. A very difficult thing to do there. And Wilson, though, it's very early days, though, in the 6th frame, so he's got himself a break of 6 points, and not perfect on this red right now, into the right corner. Shaun Murphy in their prime is the greatest. His cue ball control and action is so smooth, and his safety game is very good as well. Agree. I would probably choose him as well, but I also think it's a little bit unfair from me to compare Robertson, Murphy, that only have 1 World Championship to their name, to Mark Selby, who's managed to win 4 of those. So I'm going to retract that comparison, but for now, Wilson has got a difficult black to try and take on, and he managed to do it. I actually thought this was missable there for him, especially with him not playing his best in the couple of previous frames, but he's got the last red now that is going to be available to him, and he has to make it from there in terms of developing the position even further, unless he's got 1 more that he can try and pass into the right corner. Gary to win 5-4. Let's see. When Robertson is his best, he's the best out of those 3. Gary Wilson has gone into the reds here, and he's ended up perfectly on the red into the right corner. So this is looking more and more likely for us to go into the 7th frame. Very, very quickly here. Wilson being on the charge here. And once again, after losing the couple of frames, can't really afford to lose any of those frames if you're RonnieOSullivan there. But Wilson could still find himself in a brilliant position, being 4-2 up against RonnieOSullivan. And it certainly is going to be something that you would take even after being 3-0 up there until the intermission break. And certainly when being 3-2 down and Ronnie having all the momentum at that time, it's looking like Gary Wilson can come back into this match, but underrun slightly for the blue here, so probably has to go for the brown and send the cue ball the long way around this table. Get himself set up for a red in towards the right corner. And let's see if he's going to judge this one perfectly, and he will. So, I mean, it does look like Gary Wilson managed to put all of his struggles behind him, so far at least, in the break of 35 points. And he's been playing very much perfect snooker so far. I think very much compromised by the fact that Ronnie left him out with a chance straight after the break-off shot. For the 2nd time he's done that on frames 4 and 6. But this time it could be the time for Wilson to try and actually punish him for that. Takes the black into the left corner. Got himself lined up for a red into the right middle for contrast. So 99 points on the table. I actually think Shaun Murphy's tactical game is nowhere near where it should be. I remember Ali Carlton putting technically beat down on him at the Masters in 2020. If you make me think about it, I think Shaun Murphy's tactical game is not as good as his actual attacking part of the game, but I still think he's alright. I still think he's better than some of the players, and I don't think it's a sort of a fault or a thing that you can try and exploit there. I just think he's more known and he's actually better at his attacking game than he's at his safety game, which is always going to be natural when you are the attacking player that Shaun Murphy is. But I still see him play some of the brilliant snooker stuff there at the British Open. I mean, the majority of the frames that he actually managed to win against McGill were dominated by the safety game. And Wilson here, though, I was just about to say he's cruising to the win in the 6th frame, but he's got himself lined up with a difficult shot now. Into the left middle, still would expect him to take this one, but didn't have to. Get himself with so much angle here. And just has to drop this one in, and will drop this one in. So he's now 58 points clear. Doesn't want to be straight, though, on the yellow. So 75 still on the table. Gary to win 5-4. I mean, it's possible, Michael. It certainly is possible. I'm not going to argue with the legend of the chat there. So 61 points if he pots the green here, which he will. Gets himself lined up for a difficult shot, though, along the cushion, which is going to get him very close to frame ball there. And in fact, the next call, if he's going to be the black or the pink, probably the black because the pink is not available, he's going to be the frame ball there for him, and he's got put an end to the streak of RonnieOSullivan with him playing only a single shot in the frame. But Until then, he has to make this shot in, and he will do that. Get himself nicely on the black, in towards the left corner. And it is going to be a little bit of a domination thing for Gary Wilson. In this current frame, as I say, only a single shot there played by Ronnie. And he's only got himself to blame for the poor break-off shot that he's managed to produce. And now only one shot in between Gary Wilson and probably winning this frame here as he goes and sends the cue ball into the reds while spotting the black here. So 67 points on the table and 69 is the gap. So would like to make this red into the right middle as well to ensure that Ronnie isn't going to bother to come back to the table. And that's going to be the case. So it is going to be Gary Wilson with a 4-2 lead, something that I did say is still going to be the downfall of O'Sullivan, because I can't see him winning 3 frames on the bounce, because, you know, he managed to win 2 of those and it looked like Wilson was absolutely unraveling, playing all over the place. And all of a sudden, you see what happens. He just has one invitation into the left middle. The position was dreadful at that time, but he just manages to make it look so easy there and making a potential century break out of it. He's got 3 reds in lovely little position now. The first one will disappear into the left corner, and he still has more than enough points for the century break. Poor, certainly is poor from Ronnie. The last thing that you want to be doing is giving away your opponent a chance of a break-off. He has to do a lot better there, and it could have been a momentum shift in his favour. Instead, it's going to be a massive momentum shift in his opponent's favour. And he's now got 3 frames to try and win this match now, Wilson. And probably backed off by a century break as well. Remember, RonnieOSullivan only has got 2 breaks of 50 plus points, 64 and 79 points. And Gary Wilson makes it the 2nd century of the match here. Both of those were on his account. And if he just spots the pink, it'll be the highest break of the match here. And he does look to do that. So 106 points now for Wilson. Still aiming for a total clearance of 133 points. Will just come short of the highest break by RonnieOSullivan in the tournament. It being 135. Achieved against Stephen Maguire. And yeah, it's a nice little performance there by Wilson, because, as I say, you know, from the break-off to clear off, it's always impressive. Would have been a lot more impressive if Ronnie didn't actually leave him. I read into the left mid. I know I keep focusing my attention on that, but ultimately, it's a mistake that is going to cost him the frame and potentially the match now. Because asking RonnieOSullivan to win 3 frames on the bounce now against pretty much in form Gary Wilson, who's not going to score a total clearance though, but he's going to score 120 points. And once again, it's the frame for Ronnie that is going to have no pots in, and it is going to be 4-2 lead now for Gary Wilson. He's only a single frame away from making it into the semi-final here at the Xi'An Grand Prix. And Ding Zhuwei is still battling against Sean Murphy. 91 points on the table in frame number 6 there. So Sean Murphy's leading by 25 points to 15. Ding Zhuwei is currently at the table, but not on the break there. So Murphy's still a massive favourite at that time. And from Ronnie's point of view, he can't really do a lot about the situation that he finds himself in. And he just has to try and pull himself together and go again there. It's not really... You can try and concede there, but I don't think that's going to be Ronnie's point of view in the quarterfinal. He has to go for it. He has to take majority of the reds that are going to be available to him, and he just has to be clinical in those chances. One thing that you just feel like he needs to win 3 frames, and one thing that I feel like it's going to be inevitable, he's going to mess up the positional sense of one of those chances, and he's going to go for the shot for the red or the colour that is not there. And he's just going to pay the price there, because now Wilson only needs one more chance to make this, well, the match-ending opportunity there for himself. Could we see a Ronnie versus Selby Watts semi-final? This is what I'm thinking. You know what? When I said I can't see him winning 3 frames on the bounce, MAA philosophy, I was thinking about that match. But then straight away I thought, well, you're comparing 2020 Ronnie, which I'm not going to say was his prime, but I mean, he was a lot better than him missing 75% of the tournaments. And it also was Mark Selby that he also said brings out the best of Ronnie. And he's given his interview to Stephen Hendry on his YouTube channel, the Q-Tips, and he was saying he was basically playing all or nothing. and he was just saying, if I lose, I better lose on my own terms. I don't really see him doing that now. There's too many factors that are going to go against him. You know, he's had 3 perfect chances against Selby. He's managed to convert all of them. Not the last one, but he's managed to get 60 plus points out of all of those, which I don't think he's capable of doing right now. Selby didn't do an awful lot of good there, so you need Wilson to struggle. And also, you're comparing the 33 frame match to a best of 9 here at the quarterfinal of China Grand Prix. I mean, I know Ronnie says he likes the tournament, but I don't think he likes it to that extent. Anyway, we're going to find all the answers right now. Well, maybe in this frame. Maybe it's going to be in a couple of frames time. But Ronnie finds himself playing the first shot in a while now. After his last shot was the break-off. And that was the last time we saw him in action on frame number 6. And the first safety here is not ideal. Catches the yellow pretty much full ball. So the cue ball is going to replace the yellow here on its spot. Just above it, actually. So still 85% going for RonnieOSullivan. Obviously, they're turning into a little bit of a popularity vote. I think he is going to drop to around 80% for Gary Wilson, if you ask me, at this stage. And he can afford to go for the red into the left corner. He makes this one really, really nicely. And it could be the last time that we see RonnieOSullivan in action here at the China Grand Prix this season, because that is a wonderful pot there from Wilson. Not a lot that Ronnie can do about it. You know, maybe not catching the yellow would have been a good bonus. But now Wilson has got a perfect position up ahead of him. 4 reds after these black. So potentially around 40 points they can go and grab there. And we can see if the pressure is going to get to him. I certainly don't think he will. I think if we are in a 4-3 or 4 each zone, he could have. But when he knows he's got himself into the 4-2 of a cushion. Although I was saying that, thinking that he's got himself lined up into the right corner. He hasn't done that. And he has to go for a shot into the green pocket. So a little distance in between the cue ball and the red though. So still expect him to make it. And he feels it's faded. I don't think RonnieOSullivan's going to care about that, especially if he can get through to that red. It was a brilliant chance there for Wilson, but all he can manage is 8 points. Talk about pressure. It could be pressure. It could be just a bit of complacency there for him. Now Ronnie has got a red in towards the right corner. Pretty much the first time that we're going to see him in action in 2 frames here. And now he's on the break of his own. But you just feel like he's going to send the cue ball into the reds right now. And a bit of a hidden hope shot in terms of getting on one of those reds. But it certainly has worked out perfectly. He's got a bunch of 4 of those on top of the one that he's currently covering the green pocket here. So 4-2 is not over yet. I mean, it was very nearly saying it's going to be over. But until then, to be fair, Ronnie's break-off has always been an issue of him. Has ever explained why he's used his left hand to break off? I forgot if he did. I mean, he probably has, but I don't really buy into it. I just think he can't be asked to practice the break-off because I absolutely agree with you. And it's an issue that, I mean, he can't tell me that this issue is not an easy fix. You can't tell me because I've never seen anyone on the professional top 32 players struggle as much with their break-off as RonnieOSullivan. Never. I could make a point that he could be the world 48 or something. And every single time Ronnie breaks off, you feel like it's a massive opportunity for his opponent. Like, literally. And it's happened, 2 times already, at least, in this match. Frame number 4 and 6, he's given away an easy chance there to Wilson. In the left middle, identical carbon copy shots. And the previous frame, you see what that leads to. He loses a frame there. Although this is now important stage once again now. You know, you can talk about the past all you want, but you ain't going to change it. And all you have to do is try and win those 3 frames on the bounce. And the best way of doing that is, getting the first one on the board. Very important shot now. Sending the cue ball into the red potentially after this black. Rattle this in. And, well, good news is he has got that red over the green pocket. But that's about as much as he gets right now. I'm not sure if he's got a couple of more reds into the right corner after this shot. Of course, he lands on the wrong side of the reds now. So he'll go for the red into the green pocket, but very important for him to just try and land himself perfectly on one of the colours. And the line is looking decent there on the cue ball, but wants it to run further than that. And yeah, in the end, it's probably just about perfect. So let's see what his reaction is going to be. But of course, I say perfect if it is, if one of those reds is actually playable into the right corner. Still yet to see the better camera angle to confirm you that. Ronnie did overturn a 4-0 deficit against Andrew Higgins in the 2012 Masters, winning 5 frames on the bounce. Hopefully Ronnie can achieve comeback here. I've seen him do that. I've personally seen him do it. I haven't watched German Masters in 2012 there, but I've seen him do it. But I've seen the 2017, 2018 version of Ronnie do it. I think I've seen it once in 2020. But that is very different Ronnie. With all the respect, that is very different Ronnie to what we're seeing here. And that Ronnie actually knew when to take his foot off the pedal and play a safety shot. I don't think this Ronnie knows how to do that. And he manages to get the red in though. So wobbly, but he's still on this break. Now, this is, once again, I say this third time now, it's a massive shot for him to play into the blue and try and split up the reds. So the blue is in and easy on the red. Just about is. It's not perfect into the left corner though. Came from behind to beat Higgins in Saudi a few years ago. There will be comebacks, but what I'm saying is, I don't think that O'Sullivan was comparable to the O'Sullivan that hasn't played competitive snooker for 2 months. Because you tell me the shot that he just played, Ronnie O'Sullivan from 2020 would play. He's spotted the red, but he's landed absolutely nowhere on the black there. And if he plays the shot the way he did, surely he has to apply a lot more power because he knows the pink isn't there. So he clearly was playing for the black. And if he was, it's a massive misjudgment there for him. And it is going to be now a safety shot for him to play. 44 points clear. And still 75 on the table. And it does seem like the Ronnie is losing patience and trying to... Yeah, and I will agree on you on this one. I do agree with you. This is a totally different player to 2020 and before. Yep, and unfortunately that is the case. I think that he's compromised by the age and and also by the fact that he hasn't been playing snooker as much as he used to. You know, when you're on form, and there's one thing doing it on the practice table, but there's a very different point of trying to do it on against a competitive field. The likes of Gary Wilson, actually, Jack Jones and Stephen Maguire. I'm not saying that he has to do it against, you know, prime Luca Brissell, prime Mark Selby, or prime Mark Williams or something. And it's not like he's facing one of the numpties as well. He's facing a player that has been in great form so far this season. Managed to beat Judd Trump on his way to the final stage of Wuhan Open. And Ronnie here finds a good shot there. I think it's a good shot if he hasn't showed enough of that red into the right corner. Gets a little bit lucky with that touch on the yellow. Come on, Ronnie, says Xi'An. Certainly. Come on, Ronnie, if you want the match to go a little bit longer. And I was just about to check, and I will just about to check, because I thought Gary Wilson was aiming to go for the shot, but he ain't right now. So Ding Wei and Sean Murphy are still battling away in the frame number 6. 2 points in between the two, and it's still no player getting the most out of it. And Wilson has to go for a escape shot here. So using the cushion first shot, and with the way position is right now, this could be a risky way for him to go for, because as well as pushing the red. And this is what I mean. Has he not baited O'Sullivan to go for this red now? Because he pushed the red very close to the cushion, and I know what's going to happen because I've been watching Ronnie for way too much time. He'll go for this red now, and there's absolutely no guarantee that he's going to make this one, and he's got no backup option either. I mean, tell me Wilson wasn't actually planning to go for this one, because he clearly thought there was no safety, so he may as well just do a little bait there for Ronnie, and let's see if he's going to take the bait. Of course he will. Of course he will. Like, you just know what's going to happen with Ronnie O'Sullivan. You could just read him like a book. He's gone for the red that wasn't available, and he's going to lose him in the match now. A little bit of a spoiler alert. That's going to be the case, because Gary Wilson has got a perfect position now, up ahead of himself. And he's got 5 reds now, all in open play. The only slight issue that he could have ahead of himself is going to be the green, but you can't put your money on that now. And there's no way Ronnie was considering that green as... Yeah, you certainly can't have a clearance from here. Yep, and that looks like he is going to be the last that we see of Ronnie O'Sullivan in this tournament. And of course, we're not going to see him in that Northern Ireland Open next week. So, going to have to be a break at least until the International Championship. And I would give him credit, but I'm not going to do that because I think he could have played a lot better, even I get that, you know, sometimes you're not going to be at your best, but his shot selection has been absolutely dreadful. And he could have forced this one to go a lot further. I know he's not been playing well, and he could have lost the opening 2 frames, but ever since then, he had a chance in every single one of those. And, you know, you take away those 2 break-off shots. That's another frame that he could have won. And instead, it is Gary Wilson now with a chance to clear off the table. I'll say it will be a massive, massive let-off if he doesn't from this position, being 22 points down, 51 on the table. If Ronnie retires, I lose interest in Snooker. I think he's bigger than Snooker, which means Snooker's a star issue. This is the problem. I actually agree with you. Because I don't think any one of the players brings so much to the table as does Ronnie. Because even though he's not necessarily playing his best right now, and I've been very open of criticizing him, but he still manages to be the world number 4 when he's participating in like 30% of the tournament for the last, you know, couple of years. And he's second right now in the race of this season. And, well, and you could say, well, you've got Karen Wilson, you've got Judd Trump and Neil Robertson. Do you? And where are they right now? All of them being eliminated and playing absolutely dreadful. Trump still hasn't found his foot in the pedal. Wilson, going to be a lot more careful with that comments. Obviously had serious family issues and hopefully will be able to rediscover his form. And Robertson has been way below average since winning Saudi Arabia Masters. So you could make a point that those 3 players are better than RonnieOSullivan, but all of them are being knocked out of the Xi'An Grand Prix, and you can tell that the viewership number are going to drop massively for Shaun Murphy's match against, well, if he does manage to beat Ding Junhui, he's having a 4-1 gap now. If he's going to be Gary Wilson, which is only 7 shots from doing that, it's going to be lots of people losing interest in Snooker, and you can't blame them from that because I get the point of that. And until then, let's focus on the last 6 shots now for Gary Wilson. He's got himself onto the yellow, so probably the last point that he can try and slip up on is going to be the transition from the cue ball onto the green, but he's played the shot really, really nicely, and he gets himself pretty much into the prime position for the green. Just roll this one in. I think he'll have to settle for the shot into the middle unless he can play this one with a lot of power and just go around the brown here. Yeah, it's a fair take. I'm sure a lot of people feel like, yeah, and this is going to be sad, but there's not a lot you can do about it apart from just promote the players like Zhao Xingtong, because he's probably actually the one that I personally enjoy watching the most, apart from RonnieOSullivan. Controversial, I do enjoy him more than Judd Trump because it's difficult to put into words, but he's got more flair than Trump to me, and he is the best that I've seen that reminds me most of Ronnie now. But going back to this now, Wilson takes the wonderful brown into the green pocket and is now facing 2 shots until this match is going to be officially over. And full credit to him though, you know, he was coming into this match as a massive underdog. And RonnieOSullivan's lost only 3 frames until this match, but he's going to lose 8 of those now because it is going to be Gary Wilson taking the frame of the match here. RonnieOSullivan will be very quick with a fist bump and some warm words of congratulation there, as it is going to be Gary Wilson to set himself up with a clash potentially with Shaun Murphy or still Ding Junhui. We're yet to find out on that one, but it is RonnieOSullivan being knocked out of the tournament. And he probably only has got himself to blame. And once it's a quarterfinal, we will do a little bit of a review of the match. And congrats to Gary. You have to say congratulations to Gary Wilson. He certainly played his part. But it doesn't look like too many of the Ronnie fans will be happy with that one. Murphy or Williams tournament to lose now? Probably. Probably. I still think Murphy. Haven't seen his match against Ding Junhui. I'll be looking forward to see how that one went. But we'll see. Certainly the top part of the draw is going to be a more exciting one to watch in the semi-final. No disrespect to Daniel Wells, but Mark Williams will be the favourite for the final there. Cheers everyone, and certainly a little bit of a tough match now for Ronnie fans to take, but we're going to take it step by step now. So the first frame and the second frame were really pretty much the carbon copy of each other, and it was RonnieOSullivan getting dominated in the early safety play. And I think also, when you take into account that it's a frame of, it's a match of 5 frames to 2, which Gary Wilson takes it on right now, if he doesn't lose at least one of those opening 2 frames, I'm not going to talk about the third one because that was the moment of brilliance there by Wilson. There's nothing really that you can blame on RonnieOSullivan, but he was playing dreadfully in the opening 2 frames, and if he takes just at least one of those, he goes into the intermission with 2 frames each, and then it's anyone's game for the taking. Instead, he manages to produce a brilliant performance in the 4th frame. Cheers for the commentary. Yeah, lovely messages there in the chat. Commiserations to everyone that has been supporting Ronnie there. And hopefully he'll be back stronger at the China International Championship there. But he goes into the intermission being trailing by 3 frames to 1 there. But surely you have to say the turning point has been the 6th frame. He comes back from the intermission playing decent stuff there. Produces a brilliant break to get himself 2-3 down. But what on earth was that break in the frame number 6? And that was the last shot that we've seen RonnieOSullivan play competitive snooker today, by the way. Because he knew better than one of us, he was down and out. You're not coming back from 4-2 down against Gary Wilson that's playing well. Because you need to win 3 frames on the bounce. And he didn't manage to do that. Didn't manage to win a single frame from the visit. And he could have done that. You know, he could have had a chance to make it a 4-3. And in my view, he's gone for the red he's never should have gone for, along the cushion. It just goes back to saying, you know, if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose on my own turn. But he's tried to play it on his own turn, but ultimately he has lost out. Not a lot to say about it, only because it has been such a quick match. It's only been 2 hours and 17 minutes, and the players have managed to make it 7 frames in that gap. In you know, if you take into account the intermission break of 15 minutes as well. But ultimately, it is going to be Guy Wilson set up with a clash of against Sean Murphy or Ding Zhuhui. We're still yet to find out on which player that's going to be. But ultimately, it is going to be a very interesting semi-final clash, but it's not going to feature RonnieOSullivan in there. And it's going to be Guy Wilson and, well, Mark Williams certainly in there with Daniel Wells. We're yet to find out who the 4th player is going to be. But until then, thank you very much for everyone tuning in, and we'll see you around for the semi-final clash. Yet to confirm the times of that, but still some good snooker to come, but it's going to have to be without the Rocket, RonnieOSullivan. Once again, thanks for everyone tuning in, and I'll speak to you very soon. Take care.